So I'm one of those now rather naive people who believed that the internet was going to bring a world of perfect mutual understanding and a planetary intelligence. And it didn't really turn out this way. This is Nate Silver. The Fermi paradox, by the way, is the fact that we can't detect any alien intelligences. And Nate, I think jokingly at that point, maybe more seriously now, blamed social media. And we see the conflict all around us. I've been involved in some of those conflicts myself, whether it's Gamergate or Hulk Hogan. And those seem very minor compared with the conflicts that we could get into if a social media war breaks out between the US and China. It's not really about fake news. It's convenient for us to think it's about fake news. It's those damn amateurs taking control and not involving us. This is a story, actually. This is a story on Gorka. It was a true story about a cat, a gas mask, a firefighter, a fire. Nuance does not sell. This cat later died. But that version of the story did a lot worse than the version of the story in which the end was when the fireman rescued them. We like to blame Facebook. That's also convenient. It's kind of delicious to see them wrestling with some of the issues of actually running a newsroom. But I think Time actually got it right, not this time, but back about a decade ago, when they said that actually the problem is within ourselves, that the person of the year this year is us. And by us, I mean not just us as individuals, although it is us as individuals, but us as journalists. The very, very notion of hard-hitting journalism, all the adjectives that we use to describe good journalism, are actually, I think, symptoms of the conflicts that we are a part of and participating in. The facts are aggressive facts that we celebrate when, my nuzzle was full during the election of stories of hard-hitting journalism that had no effect whatsoever on the eventual outcome of the campaign. Which is why I'm going to suggest something kind of heretical, which is that at least some journalists put aside objectivity, that they put aside the idea that they are purely professional journalists, and they actually kind of focus on persuasion through conversation. They think a little bit more like marketers, think a little bit more like politicians, think about what the objective is, the impact is. And the research shows, my own life, I think many people's lives show that it's actually kind of through conversation, it's through tutorials at college, dinners with my dad, that you actually learn, I learned how to think and talk. These are the rules. This is a famous philosopher. Those are the rules of discussion, of engagement, which basically only involve talking to people, not judging them, even if they're racist, even if they're prejudiced, actually entering into a conversation. That seems to be the most effective way of actually changing people's minds. So if we actually care about the impact that we have, I think it has to start with persuasion and it has to start with conversation. Some of it's happening right now. There's definitely more of an effort to interview, to hear from people who were silent, it seemed, and whose voices were heard during the election. But the real question, I think, is how do we take those individual conversations, which are proven to work, and scale it, make it have a national impact. We can't go around individually talking to everybody. And there are a few examples, actually, plenty of examples of where conversation has thrived online and has been constructive online. I just point to one example. This is from a way back. Apparently Lost, I wasn't a fan of the show, but Lost had some of the most constructive political discussions of any forums because people had something in common. This is actually a graph of the distribution of a story over time, the engagement with a story over time. This is how I think it probably should look if we didn't put such a primacy on getting the story out immediately. The unlisted URLs that Medium use, that Google Docs, Eli Paris's, oh God, I'm getting, let me skip ahead. I think there are a few product things that we can do to actually scale discussion, primarily focusing on a private conversation before we actually get to the moment of publication. Eli Paris had this document, which some of you may have seen. It started off as just like a document amongst a few people. It's now being linked to from Wired. There was that kind of intimacy that you had at the very beginning of a conversation, but the impact of publishing. I think there are some things we can do there that would actually really help take conversation and have real impact. Thank you.